Right now, at this very moment, a severe weather system is bearing down on Queensland that could dump up to 400 millimetres of rain in just 48 hours. If you live anywhere from Brisbane to Townsville, the next 72 hours will determine whether your weekend is spent indoors, watching floodwaters rise, or safely navigating through this massive storm system. Here is what you absolutely need to know in the next 60 seconds. Severe thunderstorms will hit Brisbane tomorrow afternoon. Heavy rainfall totals exceeding 100 millimetres are guaranteed for the southeast, and a tropical low offshore is threatening to deliver catastrophic rainfall to central Queensland by this weekend. Stay with me, because at the 30-second mark coming up, I will reveal exactly when the storms hit your specific area. The most critical information you need right now: thunderstorms begin tomorrow afternoon across southeast Queensland, peaking between 7 p.m. and midnight. Brisbane and the Gold Coast are looking at guaranteed rainfall totals of 100 millimetres, with some areas potentially seeing 200 millimetres or more. But here is the twist that most weather reports are not telling you. There is an isolated risk in specific valleys and dam areas where rainfall could exceed 350 millimetres in just 36 hours. Let me break down exactly what is happening hour by hour, location by location, because the difference between being prepared and being caught off guard could mean the difference between a minor inconvenience and a major emergency. Tonight, right now, as we speak, thunderstorms are already developing across Western Queensland. Mount Isa and Windora are seeing storm activity ramping up. Within the next 2 to 3 hours, these storms will extend eastward toward Charleville and potentially Roma. The humid conditions are building cloud activity into northeastern New South Wales and southeastern Queensland. Tomorrow morning will start deceptively calm, but do not let that fool you. The surface trough currently sitting over Western Queensland is going to push eastward throughout the day, dragging massive amounts of moisture from the Pacific Ocean. By midday tomorrow, temperatures will be warm, very warm. The stage is being set. Here is exactly when the action begins. Tomorrow afternoon between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m, thunderstorms will start developing around Toowoomba and Warwick. These will not be your ordinary summer storms. We are talking about multicellular cluster thunderstorms. Think of them as multiple storm cells grouped together, creating patchy but intense heavy rainfall with enormous amounts of lightning. By 5 p.m. tomorrow, storms will be firing up around the border ranges between New South Wales and Queensland. The atmosphere will be loaded with moisture. Wind shear is not particularly high, which means we are not looking at organised supercell thunderstorms. But what we are looking at is pulse severe thunderstorms capable of localised heavy rainfall and damaging wind gusts. Now, here is where it gets interesting for Brisbane residents. Between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. tomorrow night, those storms pushing up from the border ranges will move into southeast Queensland. Brisbane and the Gold Coast will see thunderstorm activity ramping up significantly. The Access Forecast modelling, which is generally our most accurate look at what these systems will do, is showing lots of multicellular cluster activity. What does that actually mean for you? It means when these storms hit, they will deliver intense bursts of rainfall, not continuous rain, but isolated and sporadic downpours that when they hit big. You could see 50 millimetres fall in just 1 hour in some locations. Then it clears briefly, then another cell moves through with another intense burst. The scenic rim is particularly in the firing line. Areas around the scenic rim, depending on exactly which storms come through Thursday, could see grand totals between 100 and 200 millimetres. The Sunshine Coast, particularly locations south of Noosa, including Maroochydore and Caloundra, is likely to see triple-figure rainfall totals approaching 200 millimetres. But wait, before you think this is just another rainy weekend, let me tell you about the area that has weather forecasters seriously concerned: the Lockyer Valley, the Wivenhoe Outlook area, and the Somerset Dam region. This zone, extending about as far north as Gympie but not quite reaching into Gympie itself, has an isolated but very real risk of extreme rainfall. If convergent zones set themselves up in these valleys, and this is a big if, but it is possible, rainfall accumulations could exceed 250 millimetres. Some models are even suggesting 350 to 400 millimetres is not out of the question. That level of rainfall will cause flooding, not just minor flooding. We are talking about river flooding and significant flash flooding potential. Now, catchments across southeast Queensland can handle substantial water. There are no catchments that forecasters are particularly worried about right now. But, and this is crucial, an initial flood watch has already been issued across southeastern Queensland. This is not a drill. This is not media hype. This is a legitimate weather event that requires your attention and preparation. Let me give you the rainfall numbers that multiple forecast models are agreeing on, and when models agree, you need to pay attention. Brisbane is guaranteed to see 100 millimetres. That is not a maybe. That is a certainty based on current modelling. The Gold Coast is also likely to see 100 millimetres. Areas between Tin Can Bay, Rainbow Beach and Tewantin, south to the New South Wales-Queensland border, are looking at very significant rainfall accumulations. The European model, the GFS model, the ICON model and the Access model are all showing remarkable agreement. When you have that level of congruency between major forecast models, confidence in the forecast goes way up. The trend for Brisbane rainfall accumulations is actually going upwards, meaning each new model run is showing more rain, not less. Here is something most people do not understand about cluster thunderstorms like these. Traditional weather locations might see 2 or even 3 times the rainfall that forecast models are depicting. So when models show 150 millimetres as a possibility, actual totals in some spots could push toward 250 millimetres or more if you get a slow-moving or stagnant thunderstorm over one location. Now, while southeast Queensland deals with this heavy rainfall event, there is another system we need to talk about, Tropical Low 23U. This system is currently offshore from the North Queensland coastline and has been meandering around in the Coral Sea. The good news, it is expected to track away from the Queensland coastline over the next couple of days, heading either northeast or southeast. Wind shear, which is very unfavourable for tropical cyclones, is really hammering this system right now. The convection looked impressive this morning, but has weakened substantially over the past few hours. However, and this is critical, by the time this weekend rolls around, this tropical low could be down around the central Queensland coastline. And here is where things get potentially very serious. There is a signal for significant rainfall around Mackay, north to Townsville, and down toward Rockhampton. The monsoon trough, which normally sits further north this time of year, is expected to strengthen much further south than usual. When this tropical low meets up with that strengthening monsoon trough this weekend, it could trigger extremely heavy rainfall. How heavy are we talking? Conservative numerical models are showing very significant rainfall accumulations around Townsville and Mackay, particularly in the area sandwiched between these two cities. But artificial intelligence forecast models are going absolutely wild with their predictions. Some AI models are calling for half a metre, that is 500 millimetres, to fall into the lower Burdekin region. 500 millimetres would be catastrophic for some of these areas. The Pioneer River catchment near Mackay and the Proserpine River catchment simply cannot handle that volume of water right now. These regions are already saturated from previous rainfall. They do not need another 500 millimetres. That would be nothing short of a disaster. Now, I need to be clear. 500 millimetres is the worst case scenario that AI models are suggesting. It is not the most likely scenario, but it is possible, and possibility means preparation. Later this weekend into early next week, if a monsoonal trough and an associated low pressure system or convergence zone establishes itself, this becomes a genuine cause for concern. There is also increasing support in forecast models for another surge of moisture pushing through Cape York Peninsula and eventually into northwestern Queensland. This would be another disaster in the making. These areas do not need 200 to 250 millimetres like models are suggesting. Yet that is exactly what could happen later next week into the following weekend around February 20th onward. So let me give you the exact timeline you need to plan around. Tonight, storms across Western Queensland, including Charleville and Roma. Tomorrow afternoon, storms developing across central Queensland from the Western Downs through the Darling Downs. Tomorrow evening, between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m, storms pushing into southeast Queensland, including Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Thursday morning through Saturday morning, persistent heavy rainfall across southeast Queensland, with the heaviest falls Friday night into Saturday morning. This weekend, tropical low 23U begins interacting with the monsoon trough, bringing potential heavy rainfall to central Queensland between Townsville and Mackay. Early next week, continued monsoon activity could deliver additional heavy rainfall to already saturated areas. Late next week, beyond February 20th, another surge of moisture into Cape York and northwestern Queensland. What should you do right now? If you live in southeast Queensland, particularly Brisbane, Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast or the Scenic Rim, make sure your property is prepared for heavy rainfall. Clear gutters and drains. Secure loose items that could blow around in strong winds. If you live in low-lying areas or near creeks and rivers, have a plan for what you will do if flooding occurs. Know your evacuation routes. If you are in central Queensland, particularly around Townsville, Mackay or the Burdekin region, start monitoring this tropical low situation very closely. The situation is still developing, but the potential for extreme rainfall is real. Make sure you have emergency supplies ready, including enough food and water for several days in case roads become impassable. For those in Western Queensland around Charleville, Roma, Dalby and Chinchilla, tonight and tomorrow you are in the firing line for scattered pulse severe thunderstorms. These will bring localised heavy rainfall, damaging wind gusts and lots of lightning. Not every location will see storms, and it will not be constant, but when they hit, they will be significant. Here is something most weather forecasts will not tell you. The dew points across southeast Queensland are extremely high right now. Sea surface temperatures are warm. When you combine high dew points, warm sea temperatures, and the amount of moisture in the environment, you create the perfect recipe for training thunderstorms. Training thunderstorms occur when multiple storm cells move over the same location one after another, like train cars on a track. This is how you get extreme rainfall totals in localised areas. The risk of training thunderstorms is highest in the valley areas I mentioned earlier. The Lockyer Valley, Somerset Dam region and Wivenhoe Outlook are all valley systems where storms can get channelled and stall. If you live in these areas, Friday night into Saturday morning is your highest risk period. This is when you need to be most vigilant. Now, let me address something important. Some of you might be thinking this sounds like fear-mongering. It is not. This is information you need to make informed decisions. The forecast models are showing this. The meteorological conditions support this. Multiple independent forecast systems are agreeing on significant rainfall. The Bureau of Meteorology has issued flood watches. This is real. But here is the positive spin. Southeast Queensland desperately needs this rainfall. We have been in a dry spell. Dams need replenishing. Gardens are thirsty. Farmers need rain. This system will deliver that much needed rainfall. The key is that it is coming all at once in a concentrated period, which creates the flooding risk. But the rain itself is beneficial and needed. For those of you in areas that have been saturated by recent rainfall, particularly parts of central and north Queensland, this is obviously a different story. You do not need more rain. Unfortunately, it looks like more rain is coming anyway. This is when preparation becomes absolutely critical. One more thing you need to know. After this weekend rainfall event clears southeast Queensland, do not assume the weather pattern is settling down. That tropical low and strengthening monsoon trough I mentioned could create a very active weather pattern lasting into late February. Queensland is entering a very turbulent period with lots of factors at play. Models are showing increased tropical moisture surging through the state. Multiple systems are lining up. This is not just one rain event and done. This could be the start of an extended period of above average rainfall across various parts of Queensland. Some areas will welcome this, others will dread it. So here is my bottom line forecast. Southeast Queensland, particularly Brisbane and the Gold Coast, you are getting 100 millimetres minimum, likely more, between tomorrow afternoon and Saturday morning. Peak rainfall Friday night. Thunderstorms tomorrow evening. Central Queensland, watch that tropical low very closely this weekend. Potential for extreme rainfall, Townsville to Mackay area. Western Queensland, storms tonight and tomorrow with heavy rainfall and damaging winds possible. And here is what I need you to do right now. Comment below with your location. Tell me where you are watching from. I want to know if you are in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, Townsville, Mackay, or anywhere else across Queensland. Drop your location in the comments and I will do my best to give you specific information for your area based on the latest model runs. The weather pattern unfolding across Queensland over the next week is complex, dynamic, and potentially dangerous in some locations. But it is also manageable if you have the right information and take appropriate precautions. That is why I am breaking this down in such detail. Because general forecasts do not help when you need to make specific decisions about your safety and property. In my next update, I will have the latest model runs showing exactly where the heaviest rainfall occurred overnight and where the next batch of storms will develop. The forecast models update every 6 hours, and each update gives us better clarity on exactly what will happen and where. Make sure you catch that next update because things can change quickly with systems like these. Queensland, you are in for a very wet, very active period. Stay safe, stay informed, and drop your location in the comments so I can provide specific updates.